Welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo.
And I'm Miss Joan Marie Musi.
And you got an extended version of our song Let Them Talk, but I'm really happy to say we have Dana Beal here with us, joining us on Let Them Talk yet again to talk about his...
Dana.
Welcome back.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, Dana, it's been a while since you've been with us. A lot has happened in that time.
Right. I had a heart attack and died.
But you're with us. You were risen.
And they revived me and took me to the hospital, and then took me to a better hospital, put me on ice for 6 days, then woke me up, and said, "We're gonna cut you open in about a week." And then they did that, and they took some stuff out of my leg and gave me a double bypass.
Wow.
And then after another week, they threw me out in the street because I couldn't afford the hospital, and actually the county where I'd been in jail when this happened thought they were going to get off their bill.
Oh, really?
By letting me go early, but it didn't work out. And so when they found out they had to pay $116,000, they said, "Well, in that case, we're going to put you in prison for a year."
By the way, if you're a friend of Dana's, you know Dana, you want to comment, our number's up on the screen.
Oh, yes.
1-2-757-1538.
Call in.
Remember, there's an 8-second delay, though, so turn your TV down. But Dana...
Or call us, yeah.
Call us. Dana, so what we're leaving out of this story is that you were not a free man when this all happened.
Oh, no, I was arrested for medical marijuana. And what you got to understand for people who are coming into the middle of our recurrent show is that since 1993, we were doing the medical marijuana for the AIDS patients and for some other, people with other problems, multiple sclerosis, glaucoma, hepatitis C.
Because it really helps these people.
Yeah,
right?
well, it's the difference. There are people who told me that they would have committed suicide if they couldn't get the relief that cannabis gave them. And, my judge that sentenced me got it all backwards. He compared me to Kevorkian.
Really?
Saying I was getting rid of suffering. Well, I want to point out the only way Kevorkian could help anyone was to kill them.
Right.
And I was keeping people alive, and they were actually fairly happy, making it worth living. And for that, they initially gave me 2.5 years in confinement and 2.5 years on parole.
And you've been already in for
but
while now.
I had been in 9 months, which was almost a year of jail, because that's the way it counts. 9 months counts as a year in jail.
Sure.
And they figured out a way to only give me credit a day for a day. So after, they licked their wounds from the $116,000 they had to pay
For your medical care.
because they basically provoked a heart attack.
You actually had a heart attack while you were being taken to prison.
In the
Right.
holding cell.
In the holding cell. And this is after I had my morning milk. And I kept telling them, this milk is making me really sick. And they said basically, "I'm sorry, you're in jail, Mr. Beal. One size fits all. You can, not eat." And, I needed the milk to be able to go back to sleep in the mornings because they wouldn't give me melatonin.
Being forced to consume the milk might have sparked your...
It had a lot
your heart
of
attack.
cholesterol. And the cholesterol, of course, was kind of catching on this spot in my artery where I had an inflammation.
Oh.
And that atherosclerosis. Actually, it turns out medical marijuana is good for that. It's good for that inflammation.
It's good for what ails you.
And so what they did was they took away my medical marijuana and gave me milk at the same time, and that almost killed me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So they're not exactly... so basically you left jail, you went to convalesce after your hospital stay.
Yeah.
In a town near where all this happened.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison, Wisconsin.
Where everybody is up in arms about Scott Walker.
Oh, the governor.
The governor of the people don't like him. And the interesting thing was the prison guards didn't like him. The jail people.
They're in a union, right?
Because they were going to lose 20% of their income due to this guy who wants to turn the entire Wisconsin prison system over to private prisons.
Really?
And give you an idea, Wisconsin has 10 times as many prisoners as Minnesota, with roughly the same population. So it's another one of these
Really?
prison-happy states. He's thought of as being a liberal state, but the liberals are all in the prison guard union.
Wow, I had
Yeah.
no idea of that.
Oh yeah, and so they saw me and they said, "Oh my God, if we look at these priors, he has some priors that go back to the 70s, and if we add these up and count stuff they wouldn't count in New York City or any sane place, because it's more than 20
Too
years
long
old."
ago, right.
They figured they could get 8 years. They were asking for 8 years.
I remember that because we went to the sentencing, the
Yeah.
original sentencing procedure.
Yeah,
And I remember the prosecutor saying that, and I almost fainted.
right.
Like, are you kidding me? I
Well-
also almost fainted by the way that they had brought you into the courtroom, which seemed completely unfair to me as well. But
Well, no, they bring you in shackles, and you have to, I said my piece. I had a sentencing statement.
which you can see by the
I
way
Give you a
on
fair
the
trial
internet.
before we
I
hang you.
basically, told them, what you're going to do is you're going to not only stop medical marijuana, you're just
Which
totally
was effectively
screwing
done,
the
yeah,
patients,
these poor
but you're also going to slow down a cure for drugs, ibogaine, which I had come to Wisconsin not to sell pot there. I was just stopping to see Ben. Ben was supposed to get his congresswoman, Tammy Baldwin, to send this letter to the DEA asking how ibogaine could be scheduled as having a high potential for abuse when plainly it does not have a high potential for abuse. Nobody wants to
ibogaine?
take it.
Everybody thinks we're
Okay.
talking about medical marijuana, and I talking about
Well, ibogaine is another poster child for why some drugs should be legalized. And what it does is a single dose of ibogaine gets rid of heroin addiction overnight. If there's anybody out there who's addicted to methadone, for instance, it's very hard to get rid of. You can get off of methadone or heroin, or methadone and heroin, or alcohol, or crack cocaine or crystal meth by taking a drug from Africa that not only stops withdrawal in 35 minutes, but it releases a growth factor that regenerates the cells that have been burnt out by drugs.
Well, 212-757-1538. After all of that, I'm sure somebody would want to call and have a question or two about it with Dana Beal on Let Them Talk. Now, Dana, how is a person who's been sentenced to, I'm not sure how much time in jail you have in front of you. More time.
Another
wind up
15 months
on
minus
a live cable TV show 1,000 miles away. instead
because
of
I'm
being
on
in
appeal
jail.
bond. And they haven't gotten around to withdrawing it yet.
Right, because you were ill.
Yeah.
They gave you some leeway, but they did not cut your sentence very much.
No, they cut it all of 6 months in the end. And we were expecting, basically that they were going to furlough me because, there's a good chance I'm going to die in the next year anyway.
Oh, no.
My father and my grandfather on my mom's side both died of a stroke when they were 65. And that's a kind of, like heart attack related. It's circulatory system.
Right.
And,
can't
the
happen.
grandfather died of a heart attack also. So I've had the heart attack half of it.
So you're saying you're intimating that this is a death sentence, this prison?
Yeah, basically they wanted a death sentence for medical marijuana because, as far as they're concerned, they
always
wish
warned
all
us.
medical marijuana patients would just die tomorrow.
You've been
Actually,
warning
right
us
now,
for
5
20
minutes
years
from now.
that they would come up with death penalty for marijuana from the days of Reagan. You said Reagan
Yep.
wanted to kill us all for marijuana.
Yep, and now they're getting to do it to me.
They got your enemies, have you?
Yeah, lack a day.
You're
I
actually-
got a message from the lawyer saying, "What's up?" Meaning, he wishes me to, schedule a return. It isn't clear. I said, "Well, when do I have to turn myself in?" And, hustled off. This is on Facebook, right? Hustled off to go to this show, but I could get back there and say, "Hey, you're supposed to be here tomorrow. What are you doing?"
Right. I see. So
I doubt it. I think that maybe next week they're going to pull the plug. That's
in
why
a
I'm
few days you're
going.
going to be back in Wisconsin, going to jail.
Yeah, I'm
to
going a
do-
few days. I'm going back to Wisconsin to try to preempt, any kind of trick move where they say you have 5 minutes to be here, or you get automatic demerits.
Okay, so that's going to happen. And how long do you have to do more of jail time?
we did the calculations, and it comes out to just under a year.
And you will
Somewhere
be back
around
here
11
in
and a
a
half
year
months.
On the show.
So we'll have you back
Yes,
here
be
Yes.
old
in
and white,
January
old and gray,
2013.
a cane.
You'll be on the show in January 2013. We hope to have you next on the show to talk
Yeah.
about your terrible experience at the hands of
Paul.
the authorities.
Well,
in the state of
actually, what we're
Wisconsin.
hoping for two big things.
Good. Tell us
One, we're
about-
hoping that I will be able to get my case in Nebraska concurrent with the sentence
Right,
in
to serve at the
Wisconsin.
same time.
Well, let me have my James.
In the Wisconsin prison.
So
My
basically,
Jon Stewart moment
there are
now.
two different ways that can happen. One, they transport me and I go to court. Two, they allow me to file a paper. And now I've gotten the word that, because I got this extra time, the prosecutor there isn't going to be that upset. If I was only getting 9 months, that was the whole deal we were trying to get before, and she didn't want to give that. The other big thing we're trying to get is to go into a minimum security facility a few miles from where my doctors are in case I develop problems. And that would be in a place called Oregon Correctional Facility, which is not in Oregon, but is in Madison, where people could come and visit
Just a
me
few
from
miles,
the
15
local
minutes
supporters.
from
I
Madison.
have a whole
Yeah.
group of people from Normal there who are supporting,
Right.
Yes.
which is, I think,
And Madison's a supportive city. It's just an island in a desolate.
Well, and you should be
universe.
supported. This is like they're martyring you,
well, yeah.
And the movement should support Dana. And now,
Yeah.
what about how are you going to have money? In
I'm
your
also
account
going to, put in after I, get the first thing dealt with, when Nebraska dealt with. I'm going to request early release on account of health.
I think you should, yes.
Yeah.
And
And
they
I don't
should
know
let
whether
you
it's
out.
gonna, they're gonna go for that, but it clearly.
But you need a lot of special.
I
things
need
that are
I
not
need
given.
special food,
Right. So you have to have a.
and I need
commissary
about
account.
6 different medications
So
daily.
You need a.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little
yeah,
bit.
your commissary
Is
account.
there a support committee that's handling putting money?
Yeah, there's a
into your
woman named
commissary?
Tara Frutiger,
Okay.
who's going to be like the local liaison, and a fellow named Gary Stork from Normal, who's a
Okay.
medical marijuana guy.
And how can you get in touch with these folks?
Yeah, how can people make
Well,
donations to
On
that?
Facebook, maybe one place.
I guess my number will be being answered by somebody. It's 608-210-9024. That's 608-210-9024.
Right, for
Now you can call this number right now and talk to us about,
Yeah.
if you got a question.
212-757-1538.
I went and saw Ethan Nadelman today, and we talked about how we can get medical marijuana legalized in New York State in the next year.
Who's Ethan
So that
Nadelman?
when
Tell
I
folks who
get
Ethan-
out, I can have a dispensary.
Tell folks who
And it'll be legal.
Tell folks who Ethan Nadelman is.
He's the head of the Drug Policy Alliance. You see him on things like Bill Maher a lot.
So he's
Or I think he was on the Colbert Report a couple times too.
part of the drug reform policy.
Yeah, and
Drug
he's
policy reform.
for legalizing, but they think that this is a good year for marijuana. They got some initiatives going out west, and they think they can legalize medical marijuana in Massachusetts. And if Andrew Cuomo is going to feel that he's falling behind.
Well, New York is falling behind. They've
Yeah.
had the legislation again and again and haven't passed it. And we had
Yeah,
They
they've had
actually
some
did
sick
in
people.
1980. They did pass it. There is already a medical marijuana bill.
Yeah, but the problem is the feds are supposed to supply it, and
Right. That's the
they
problem.
just don't want to.
Yeah.
right, they're not interested.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. That's the problem. And so again, 212-757-1538. Our guest, Dana Beal and Paul Durienzo with Miss Joan Marie Musi. And we're talking about Dana's work and how it's coming to a sort of situation now, and where Dana has to soon turn himself in to serve 11 months.
Well,
Or
if
a
you
jail
wanna
sentence.
get a hold of, the movement, right, the ibogaine movement, or the medical marijuana movement, you can go to 9 Bleecker Street, and
Right,
behind,
there's a number 9
basically right up
Paul,
here
that's it.
behind Paul.
Is the
Is
number
there
9.
is
You
this
can see
number
it there.
9, which
Number
stands for 9 Bleecker, the Yippie Museum, and you can go in there and say,
Yeah.
I want to figure out how to sign up to be a medical marijuana patient, for instance. And there it is. And
And And they just
we're
had
we're going to actually be working with a group from out of state that signs people up to get Oregon cards. So you can get an Oregon medical marijuana card and be a bona fide registered medical marijuana patient.
All right, you can, I think, learn more about the cafe at 9bleecker.com.
Well, also, if you go by there, they recently had a whole program about ibogaine there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information floating around there about all sorts of different issues. And
yeah, the ibogaine people are the ones who run the place.
isn't it wonderful?
They're just
Music, right?
disguised as mild-mannered baristas, you know,
Tell
kind
them
of like
about the
Clark
coffee.
Kent, you know, and the Superman changing in the telephone
Tell
booth.
them about the coffee.
Oh, and it has like the best coffee. It has French press coffee, and I'm a coffee like fanatic, a connoisseur, just you know, total fan. And
best coffee
I
in
had to
town.
go and like tell Ethan Nadelman that his coffee from his coffee machine I couldn't drink
After drinking
after drinking the good stuff.
at 9bleaker, right?
Yeah, so you
That's
can come
great.
over and get our wonderful.
And it looks beautiful. There's an
Yeah, you can get a
exhibit by
cup for like
Gilbert Baker
75
out.
cents. Yeah, well, those are. You better come and buy a painting by Gilbert Baker
Yeah.
because they're about to take them down. So
Right,
you know
it's
we're gonna.
a temporary
And
exhibit.
I'm meeting
It's
with people
beautiful.
tomorrow about breaking into the art world and maybe having more shows there
Great.
by people who do.
'Cause there's fantastic space for display.
Yeah, this woman actually was spending colossal amounts of money on heroin and took ibogaine.
Oh, really?
And
That
she
gives
thinks
money
it's
to
she
spare.
thinks it's a miracle. Hey,
Well,
she
that's
spent
a miracle.
$45,000 on one rehab that didn't work.
Poor
You know,
thing,
basically you can go spend max $7,000 on an ibogaine treatment and it will work. You won't have any like drugs for a long time. Just the amount of money you'll save if you're rich. You know,
yeah. It's huge.
I couldn't believe it. You know, I could not believe that Charlie Sheen kept his ex-wife from doing ibogaine.
Brooke Mueller.
What you know, he's the guy has obviously got you know.
He didn't want to cure. wanted her.
He's afraid he's going to be exploited
See, I thought maybe he went
by
down
you
and they
know
both
a
took it.
medical cure.
That's
you
what
know.
I thought.
Maybe there's a secret to it behind the story
That's
that we
what I
don't know
thought.
about.
He went down and they both took it because everything straightened
Right.
out in his life
Brooke
after
Mueller
that.
was going to go down there with him.
No, she was down in Mexico
Yeah.
and he flew down and brought her back.
Right,
Do it.
but then she
you
got
got- but that's
busted
what they
again for
said
like
in-
coke. She got busted with 4 grams of coke.
But that's what they said in the press.
Yeah. So we don't really know the real
No,
story.
I
Well,
he
well,
might
I
have
think
taken it too.
I think that what happened was he listened to Drew Pinsky, and Drew Pinsky is really against ibogaine and said it'll change your personality. Well, if
Yeah,
it changed
for
your
the better.
personality so that you're no longer a junkie,
For the better.
or I think she's a speed freak. God,
Poor thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
hard, yeah.
oh
Again,
man.
we're at
Very
212-757-1538, and hope to take your calls here with Dana Beal, talking about medical marijuana or the rainforest African cure for drug addiction, or what's it like to be caught up in the jaws of the police just us system in America. We're taking all those questions. So, Dana, why don't you? What do you plan to do? I mean, you're not going to just sit around and.
I'm gonna sit around and read.
Alcatraz Birdman here. What are you going to?
I'm going to read, and I'm going to like do some writing. I'm going to write some notes up for the next big book.
Well, we look forward to that.
You know, we need a new book because we're almost coming to an end of the old books, and
Right.
they left the box open again, and some books got trashed.
Oh, dear.
We're down to the last one. So, Dana, that means
Tell us about the books you're talking
the book.
about.
Yes,
too.
it's the.
Oh yes, it's the Paul DiRienzo Dana Beal book called The Ibogaine Story.
That we've had here. We talked about that. But the new book is going to be based on the idea of letters of transit, right?
Well, it's based on the idea of Casablanca, which is the
Film.
main dramatic device in Casablanca are these letters that'll enable you to get out even if the Nazis control Casablanca. If you can get your hands on them, they have to be like honored by the French occupation. You know, the Vichy government even has to honor these things, and they basically it's the effect of it's
the honored dead.
yeah, it's the effect of basically like 2 doses of ibogaine for a junkie couple who want to quit dope together, and that enables them to
So does this
secure letters out of this police state they're living in and
Ibogaine
to be
provides
free.
the letters of transit for the refugees trying to escape the Nazi machine.
Right,
basically,
the heroin
to Lisbon.
Being entrapped.
kleptocracy.
Lisbon's nice, warm, sunny.
And of course, Lisbon
Sangria.
is totally decrimmed, and the decrim amount of ibogaine is enough ibogaine to get you off methadone.
I see.
It's a big amount.
All right, Dana. So the book Letters of Chance, it's going to be about
Is that the
Everything
title?
that's happened, everything that's happened, more tales from the ibogaine story, everything that's happened since the last book.
Okay, so scratch. What are the important things that have happened since the last book that you'll?
The most important thing that's happened is that they found out there's a thing called a neurotropin, which we didn't know in 1995 or 1996 that such a thing existed. That neurotropins specifically instruct certain brain cells to resprout and sprout new receptors, and so that the brain is not like immutable. It's not, like it's basically plastic. It can be switched on to grow again. It isn't. You're not stuck with the same damage.
You're gonna have a lot of hard science in this one, like the last one.
Well, yeah, there's going to be some hard science in it, but
How
we're
about
going to talk about how once
about,
you turn on this switch in the brain, it stays on, so you don't have to do more ibogaine. You
And
just
what about
keep making
Howard?
more growth factor.
You're going to talk about Howard?
Yeah, we'll talk about the last days of Howard Lotsoff, of course, poor man who never, he got to see the promised land, but he never got to cross over the Jordan.
Like Moses. Well, what about the other thing too? Is we were talking about this earlier, global warming. How does this fit into the whole thing?
Well,
Are
you
gonna
go
be talking
outside,
about-
we have a totally balmy global warming phenomena of no winter, and so it's finally happened.
Except yesterday was cold.
Well, but basically you're going to get a few cold days, but basically the whole winter is going to be a giant dud, and this is going to be followed by the summer from hell. And it's going to be too hot, and basically we're going to go and become like Iraq.
So how does
Like 120 degrees in the shade.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing I grew up in New Orleans. I'm prepared.
Yeah.
So what are they gonna do? What's your solution to this problem?
We got to get rid of the people who say that global warming is a myth, because obviously that's like sand in the gears, and I think they should all be given a job doing water reclamation. And we can give the people who are laid off when the big change comes, right? And we don't have. Well, look, they just had to lay off people running the Gainesville Correctional Facility and some forestry camp, Levi Forestry Camp in Florida. And it's not because the governor of Florida is a real reactionary guy. He
doesn't
wants
like to close down prisons.
He wants like everybody, to have to pee in a cup because he owns the piss test company. And if you're going to get like welfare, they found out nobody trying to get welfare actually smokes pot. That was the interesting thing, because they actually have proof now. Yeah, and it's like 1%. It's like so small that it's like a colossal boondoggle for the
statistic.
it's a gigantic subsidy for the piss test business.
Yeah.
And so this guy loves the war on drugs, but he's having to like cut prisons. And there's 450 people who are going to be like unemployed now. And we have to think about these people, what they're going to do, because you don't want this phenomena of like the Nazis after World War I, where all these demobilized veterans and they have nothing to do but make trouble. So you got to give these guys something to do, and they could run. They could run the water reclamation, the conservation camps is what we call them.
Camps, conservation.
Conservation camps, which we would take all the people who say that global warming is a myth and say, okay, well, you dig,
This implies digging.
digging with a shovel, kind of like a cross between the WPA and the and the CCC.
Right.
Except you wouldn't be allowed to lean on the shovel; you'd have to actually dig with a shovel.
Right.
It'd be good for their health.
Right. Good exercise.
Good exercise. They wouldn't get a heart attack when they got to be
what
64.
Would they be digging? They'd be digging for water.
No, they would be digging ditches to bring the water down, to bring water down
water.
to the places that are completely destroyed by global warming, where it's
Where would
too
the water
hot.
come from?
That's the water reclamation.
Well, it has to come from up north in the Arctic regions down to, say, Texas, which, Texas had a year-long drought.
Yes.
And this is because God does not like being even associated with Rick Perry. Actually, he was so upset that Rick Perry claimed that he had a direct pipeline.
Santorum would agree with you on that one, Dave.
Yeah, well, Santorum has got to dig too. Anybody who backed the Koch brothers and the the Tea Party is going to have
Such
to
an
atone for their
appropriate name.
sins. Yeah, they're going to have to atone for their sins.
Okay. Well, Dana, we have a couple of minutes. What do you want to leave us with in the next 2 minutes?
Well, just, that like it or not, marijuana legalization is coming. You might as well get used to it, and we need to plan what are we going to do with all the people who get laid off when marijuana is legalized. I don't want to give these guys a job being in charge of the marijuana. I think they'll ruin it somehow. And that's one thing they'd be saying, oh, we can have them run licensing schemes.
Oh, okay.
They'll just...
Making license plates?
I think we'll have a lot less people in prison.
Right. So you're not going to try and get... I thought people in prison try and get a job. You're not going to try and get work in the laundry.
I don't know.
I'm
basically
It's retirement age.
The other thing is I do still get winded. I still have a little shortness of breath. Not as
right.
bad as before.
You're still in the recovery process.
And so, I don't want to strain something and drop dead,
Absolutely not.
So, I'm basically taking the position of
convalescing.
I'm here not to die.
Yes, and that you're still convalescing.
Burt Lancaster, the Birdman of
important.
Alcatraz. He'll be there doing your science in the corner of your...
I'll be writing down
Yeah.
some recollections.
And we'll all be thinking about you, and we're going to have a big support.
Yeah,
of
send
Dana.
money for my canteen.
That's right.
Yes.
We'll have regular benefits at
Check
number
out
9 Bleecker.
Facebook. Free Dana, free ourselves.
Right, Free Dana, Free Ourselves on Facebook. You can make contributions there to help out Dana.
We'll put up the PayPal on there tonight.
Right,
Yeah.
and that'll help him.
That
You
way
know,
you
if
can
you've
go
ever been in
there.
jail, you know the value of commissary and having a few dollars.
It's
We're
very
not talking
important.
about
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah.
And let's not forget how many people Dana's helped over the years with so many things in so many ways. It's time to step up and support Dana.
So go to Free Dana, Free Ourselves on Facebook. Come down to 9 Bleecker Street, ask around, and we'll be sure to...
Go
people
on the
will be there.
parade. Go on the marijuana parade
May
this
5th.
year, which is May 5th.
And we'll have more about that. So thank
Yeah.
you so much, Dana, and good luck,
And
okay?
We'll see you in a
All right.
year.
All right, Dana.
All right.